there is no better time to have this conversation than now, We've been able to see the political class in Nigeria trying to get quick fixes, temporary solutions, the executive trying to make sure that they call everybody that they think has the power in the society, the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, the imams. They are calling everybody, the trade union leaders, to ask the common person, or what we would say the public, the masses, not to protest. Nigeria is planning a peaceful protest for 10 days, starting 1st of August to 30th of August. What are they asking for? Good governance. They are talking about hardship. They are requesting for accountability and transparency. I don't think there's anything wrong with what they are asking for. But somehow the political class begins to think as they are, I think they are in their own world. They begin to think about anarchy. This is going to cause problem. To whom is this problem going to be caused? They find it such an inconvenience that the masses are asking for accountability. It's not supposed to be like that. They are employees of the masses. They were given jobs. They came asked for a vote. You see the problem with the politicians, I'm not sure they also understand their position. I don't think they understand the responsibilities that they're supposed to be like. I don't think they understand their job description. Let me just say that. Their job description is not clear to them. They are supposed to serve the people. And when the people say, we are not moving in the right direction, we don't feel it, they mean they don't feel it. Because definitely something somewhere is broken. People in Nigeria are completely like saying, we cannot feed. We cannot survive. We are literally struggling for survival. So why is it that the politicians are so uncomfortable? Why are they talking about anarchy? Why? People have been so patient. I think there's a new crop of generation, the Generation Z and millennials, that is not ready to do struggle life, just like talking about struggle life, do struggle life, where you just pray and pray and pray and pray without doing the other work, without asking for accountability. Gen Zs and millennials want to pray, but praying while asking for accountability. And I don't think the politicians understand that. I don't think they understand what that means. It means they have to stop the stealing. I would just call it stealing. It has nothing to do with the so-called corruption. The corruption is just a big word that they are using to cover it. But the fact of the matter is, they are just stealing. This is money that belongs to the people, the masses. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. There is nothing that is not in Nigeria. Rare metals, oil, the deposit. I think it's the second largest in the world. But does that show, does it match with what is on the ground? No. Nigeria still has the poorest population in the whole world. The most poor of the poor. You find them in Nigeria. People that literally cannot afford anything. What have the politicians been doing in the past? They've been dividing people along tribal lines, and especially the major tribes, the Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba. The emphasis is on the fact that people are different, they speak different languages. Can you imagine that? Languages that people were just blessed with by God, there's nothing they can do about it, they cannot change anything. So, if Nigerians are to succeed, they first have to sit down and process. How have these people divided us? If they've divided them along tribal lines, what are they supposed to do? Remove the tribe and keep it on the side first to fight for their rights. To go on that protest and request for good governance in unison. Not some people say, hey, you just don't want our person to be in charge. Now they will reach a point they will say, it must have been funded by the opposition. People cannot just wake up and decide to. Why is it that politicians think like this? Why would politicians think that they must there must be somebody funding the masses to go to the streets. People can just wake up and go to the streets because they don't feel comfortable with the government. And that is very possible. Kenyans did that. That's just a good example. And the politicians in Nigeria have a way of trying to belittle the Kenyan protests, to minimize it so that it doesn't look like it achieved anything for Nigerians not to do their own. And Nigerians probably, some of them have bought it, but Kenyans got a lot, and the president is scared. Kenyans managed to have their finance bill rejected in less than 2 days. Kenyans managed to have the cabinet secretary they said should be sacked. Kenyans managed to have the president run from one place to another, even the opposition to join the government, and now they know the truth about the opposition. Literally, Kenyans, that protest made Obasanjo stay in Kenya for a while, trying to see whether they could get anywhere around having a government of unity. That one, the one that Ruto called broad-based government, which has borne no fruit, and Kenyans have said they don't want that. They're still going to the streets. They've planned a big, huge protest where everybody will be meeting in Nairobi on the 8th. So Nigerian politicians cannot just come out and say it didn't work. It can work if it is peaceful. Peaceful protests have worked in so many places. In India, Mahatma Gandhi led a whole protest when they were not able to mine salt. I have that video in this channel. And he led a very peaceful protest that eventually liberated the people of India. So peaceful protests are things that people use. Nelson Mandela did the same thing. Martin Luther King did the same thing. And people cannot, just like politicians in Nigeria cannot be talking about anarchy. And can people even believe what they're saying? Can you imagine the government that has all the machinery, the power, the intelligence, all the money, talking about anarchy? So they know it's going to cause anarchy, and they're not even taking that person into account? Really? And some people believe that? Really? Like, for real? Then that tells you that they are not in charge of the country, So it's not like I'm trying to tell people to go to this. But if they are planning for something peaceful, then it is important for them to speak up. Because also when people are so quiet for so long, when it begins to explode, it just explodes out of proportion. So it is important that even the executive knows that, listens and gets to know what people are thinking. That is what it is. Don't allow people to be quiet because you wouldn't know they're planning against you. Allow them to speak up. Know what they're thinking. Understand what they're thinking. Running around and trying to call everybody, mobilizing all the police, and trying to make sure that they are there to counter the people. Probably that is not a good solution. It's not really a wise move. Or probably, allegedly, if there are people that are already being paid to do a counter protest that is going to be for supporting government, because I don't think anybody would want to come out and start saying, I support this government, if they are not gaining from it. If everybody has the feeling that things are not okay, it means they're not okay for a lot of people. The funny thing is that when politicians divide people, they're just dividing them so that they will not be able to see as they share people's resources. Because every time you touch any one of them that has stolen, they will always turn around and go to their tribe and try to mobilize people to protect them, give them a little change here and there. And it's only a few people that benefit from those politicians, because you can't imagine over 200 million people being given money to keep quiet. It's not possible. It's just a few. So even the few that get to benefit from that money that politicians allegedly give them, plus the political class, plus the army, the police, they are not that many. That's the reality. So when people get out to ask for accountability, I think it's only important the government listens. Because nobody wants to sleep angry. Sleeping angry is not something it's not funny. It's not really funny, People want to be in a position to feed and at least meet their basic needs. And I think that is what most Africans in general are unable to do. And it's not because there is not enough for everybody. there is so much in our continent that even if we were to consume it, we never finish it. We still give it to people. Extra. God has like brought everything into that continent, blessed everybody. But because a few people are so greedy, that is why it is not possible to share for everybody to get a little. There are just a few people that want to pocket everything, and the rest of it, they don't care who takes it. You would be shocked to see a political person that is from the African continent allowing people from all over else to come and pick things that could have benefited their own fellow brother and sister in that African continent. It's just a shock. It's a shock. And you know what? What I usually like look at it and I'm like, is this really normal? Like, these are the same people, the political class to be specific also, that fill the churches, the mosques, praying, and if you find them there, you just imagine that they are holier than thou. But do you know what? I think they killed their conscience at some point. I don't think they have their conscience in one place. And I think that is what makes so many young people feel like, do these people really feel us? Like, do they really have that feeling? Do they have remorse? I remember when Ruto was being interviewed, and people were like, do you have the remorse? Do you actually understand that some people here lost life? Do you feel it? Because politicians, I don't know, they sold their soul, they say, sold their soul to the devil, maybe. I have no idea. And else are saying, enough of it. In fact, it's not even the religious leaders. It is the year of Revelation 2024. They need to stop dining with these politicians, because they are going to shame the body of Christ, the church. You know, it's so important to separate these two, because the politicians are too messed up that they will mess up everything. Everything they touch will be dirty. So it is time, even religious leaders said, enough is enough of this mess. I don't know what you guys think, and leave us your comments below. Let's know exactly what you think about this situation, but we can only say we wish Nigerians all the best. Kenyans, as they are preparing for the next big protest on 8th of August, we are also wishing all the Gen Zs, all the millennials, and we're just here to help and support, provide that civic and very much needed civic education, because it's so important for everybody to know their rights. Thank you.